college up there and everything, studying jazz. And and after a few years of being around, playing all kinds of gigs and stuff, and then went and did my master's at Manhattan School of Music. So that got me over the border into the U.S. and everything. So I've been living here ever since. I've been in New York since 2013, and
Okay.
yeah, I've had a lot of good opportunities. I play with Braxton Cook a lot. Is someone that I play with. I'm on his latest release, Fire Sign, and he played on my last record as well. Just gotten to play with a lot of different artists and tour with different artists and things. And as far as what I'm up to right now, same as everyone else, just trying to stay safe,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we are in a different phase here right now. We are trying to open up finally, because this has been like almost 60 days for me already.
Wow.
So we are opening up. Things are gradually becoming more normal and more natural. So
Right.
I think it's even, I don't know how to say this, but this is even an awkward moment, because when everything was closed and everybody was home, but now many people are starting to go out, so things are changing, but not still completely. So if you know what I mean. So now it's even
Absolutely.
now it's like, okay, many people are working, but I'm still not working. So there are still no shows. So it's
I know.
even worse, in a sense. It's like,
Yeah.
oh.
I'd rather stuff stay closed until they have a vaccine or something. Like, just like, why? What was the point of closing everything if you're just going to open it up too early? That's kind of
Yeah, we
the
need to
thing
be.
I'm worried about right now.
Yeah. So, what can you tell us about the? I studied many years ago with a teacher who lives now here in Portugal, and I had a live with him. He used to teach at a drummers collective.
Oh, cool.
Michael Lauren. He's a really nice
Oh,
guy.
cool. Right.
Yeah, he lives in Lisbon now.
Oh,
And
great.
yeah, and what can you tell us about, because things evolved so much, things change all the time, and what can you tell us about how to, because everybody always looks up to the New York scene, of course, any one way or the other, and what about that? How is it to get a gig, get a session? How do you get invited? How do you get work right now there? Of course, we always have to work, but what about the scene?
Well, I mean, right now, obviously, no, no one's working right now. But I mean, I think one of the biggest things that I've noticed, especially being here, I mean, being here for 7 years now, one thing that I've noticed a lot of is that there's a lot of people that you see all the time for a little while, and then they're not around anymore. So one of the biggest, and it's one of the hardest things to do, but one of the biggest things is just staying, because New York will give you any number of reasons not to stay. It's not an easy place to live sometimes, but but one of the most important parts is just staying and just being around and continuing to be like a contributing active member of the community, and just developing relationships. I kind of hate the term like networking. When people talk about networking, like, to me, it's just building relationships. Because especially with musicians, like a coworker is also a friend, is also
Yeah.
whatever. Like it could be a mentor, it could be whatever. So I think, yeah, one of the big things is just like is being around, always continuing to improve. Just being cool and being willing to collaborate, being willing to just to be all in on anything, whatever it is. And like anywhere else, it's like at first you got to take every single gig, no matter what it is. My first gig in New York was, I mean, I played a couple gigs here before I moved here, but when I first moved here, my first gig was in a place called Cafe Vivaldi, and took my drums on the train and everything to get there and made $2. And then like, uh, yeah, it was the whole thing, right? But it was fun, and some of those some of those guys that I was playing with are still friends of mine, so the so that's a big part of it. I have seen stuff kind of evolve on the scene, like stylistically over the time. I felt like things were. I mean, the cool thing about New York is obviously you have everything at any
Hmm.
time, so there's sort of a place for everyone stylistically. I did notice that stuff has started to get a little more open, a little more like just over time. Stuff has been evolving, so like
Hmm.
people are doing all kinds of different things, and of course like um, with like home recording and things like that.
Hmm.
People are starting to make like less and less conventional music, which I'm into.
Yeah, I've been
I love
seeing.
it all, but the it's just cool to see people like not try to fit themselves into a box of some kind when what they actually want to do is something else.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that for sure this will change. We remember when we had all these things like MySpace and wherever, and
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah.
records stopped being sold, and then all the industry changed, and I think it will change again. I
I think
think there's no way we can come back to how it was. But I think there's an opportunity here for musicians because look, for example, I met you and I met so many people, and I think it's really amazing that we can turn a little bit of this to our side because just as I agree with you because we have to do different stuff. We have to do stuff
right.
with, right? You
Yeah,
also
yeah.
think
And
that this is an opportunity?
yeah, exactly. The industry is different than it used to be. Like back when there were even when there were album sales and stuff, on a way that people could actually live off of their album sales, and then cats would be on the road for weeks and weeks and weeks at a time too. So you would just get as good as you can at your instrument, and then someone takes you on the road, and then someone else takes you on the road, and then maybe you go on the road yourself, and then that's that was the whole thing. But now it's like it's a different type of industry, so you have to adapt, and
Yeah.
so you know I've uh, I've always sort of done different things. I haven't been doing a lot of teaching lately, but I did the last couple of years. I taught at Manhattan School of Music for their pre-college program. Um, but I used to teach in the after-school program, so I've always had private students and things. And then the now I'm like I've also done arranging work and copyist work, making charts for people and things like that. And then now
Okay.
it's like I do a lot of like editing. I'm getting better at mixing things like that using Pro Tools and whatever. So
Hmm.
the so there's always like kind of other aspects of the thing so that you can sort of take ownership of your thing rather than just getting really good at the drums. There's other aspects of the industry that is kind of it behooves you to understand.
It's really important right now for a drummer to record himself, right? And to know the sounds he really wants to have and the sounds he doesn't want to have. That's one of the things I enjoyed very much about your videos, that you have a sound and you have a groove in a pocket. You're just not like, okay, showing off or playing
Right,
or
right.
just playing, because everybody's playing now online and many people still haven't realized that you don't need to go there and just play and overplay and just do nonsense. You have to do something or nothing. Would you agree?
Right, right. I think I tend to like to judge things for what they are rather than for what they aren't. So if someone is chopping out, then I like to just okay, cool. They're chopping out. That's cool. I like
Okay.
that too. You know,
Yeah.
but but then when someone's grooving, like I want to really hear that pocket as well. So the but yeah, I think that you hit on something about the like just the quality of the sound and knowing what you're going for and all of that. Like I really I think I probably could be putting out a lot more videos if I spent less time getting the sound just right and making sure that it's exactly the right take or whatever and things. But I do really want when I put it out, I really want it to to sound good. I don't want it to just be you know, I go back and see some videos that I used to make just on my phone, like camera audio or whatever, and I'm like, oh, I can't believe like how you know how bad this sounds, you know. So and also like by the same token, it's like I can't believe I can get stuff to sound this good just in my apartment, you know. So because
Mhm.
all that stuff is just shot just right in my living room. So the so yeah, I've been really impressed. Sort of, I was already recording at home a little bit when this hit, but then now since it hit, I've been recording at home all the time, you know. Um,
That's great.
yeah,
Uh, some people usually I try to manage some of the questions of viewers.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
classical question here from the Drum Hub. Who are the drummers that inspire you the most?
Okay. Well, I'll have to. I'm going to flip the camera around for a second. Number one is hanging on the wall right there. Elvin Jones, right there. So that's probably number one for me. Um, but definitely, yeah, Elvin Jones, Tony Williams, Max Roach, Philly Joe Jones. Um, that's like sort of my, you know, my biggest influences. Um, but you know, there's so many others, more modern drummers. Um, you know, Lewis Nash, Greg Hutchinson, my teachers, who are Terry on Gully, and Quincy Davis were both private teachers of mine in my
Okay.
undergrad, and John Riley was my teacher in my master's. Um, and Ralph Peterson, I've been studying with the last here and there. I hadn't taken a drum lesson in like 3 years, and then a couple of years ago it was just because he lives in Boston because he teaches at Berkeley, so he was someone that I always wanted to study with. So the yeah, so I've been kind of over the last couple of years here and there every few months or so when he's in town, we do a lesson. So those have kind of been some of my biggest influences. I'm also influenced by, I mean, you know, the recently deceased Tony Allen is one of my heroes for sure. Um, and one of my biggest influences is Dudu and Dia Rose, who passed away a couple years ago. He's a master Sabar drummer from Senegal. Uh, and so if you check out these videos, it's like spelled Doudou, then Ndiaye, then Rose, like the flower. Um, so yeah, if you check those out, it's like the he had a whole like just all drums, you know, and it was all members of his family, men and women, like nieces and nephews, his kids, his grandkids, everything, like all playing drums. It'd be like 50 drummers, you know. Um, and some of the rhythms that he came up with, he's basically the father of modern Sabara drumming. Oh, someone is at my door. I'll be right back.
Uh,
Oh wait, no, my wife's got it. It's okay.
okay.
The got a package, I guess.
Brought you food. They brought you food.
Yeah, right, exactly. The yeah, but yeah, Judo and Dire Rose is definitely one of my biggest influences for sure. So, I put up a video of I did a transcription of one of them, like and adapted it to drum set. That was back in like 2014 or 15, and then I've been sort of getting back into it during quarantine because I've had more time to sort of sit down and write some more of it out and things.
Mhm.
But I actually found in an old notebook that I had actually done a whole other transcription that I just forgot about. So I'm gonna work that up on the drums and make a video of it. So
Really interesting. Can you type the name down because I think many people would like
oh
to.
yeah. Oh right, I can do that.
Yeah, because it's really, yeah, it's sweet because we can live here all
Yeah.
our, because I know people have been following very much. This is one of the beauties of this. Always people will reach out to someone they just met and ask you some questions, or for
Yeah.
example, you said yourself that you teach, so you are you available for teaching, for
Yeah,
example?
absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that's really everybody here, okay? Curtis can take you
Yeah.
up lessons, online lessons.
Well,
So
and that's the thing I was just saying, ironically, I haven't been teaching as much lately because I was on the road a lot. So I just was teaching a lot less. and then this all hit. Now I'm just here. So uh, I have been doing some stuff with Braxton Cook, as I mentioned, and I also have been the last within the last 9 months or so reconnected with some old friends of mine from Winnipeg. This band called the Brothers Landreth. So I've
Okay.
been. So if you saw the latest video that I posted was something that we did for fun with Charlie Hunter. So I did like a
You know, I'm a
I
big.
I
I,
did a little
yeah,
video with him, and then they all jumped on it. So, but it was
great.
actually through them that I met Charlie in the first place, because we were playing in London in November, and
Okay.
Charlie was catching a connecting flight to, I think, to Latvia or somewhere like the. But yeah, so he had an early flight, but he had a layover in London, so he came out to our show
Great.
and so. Um, so yeah, it's been really fun collaborating with him on those videos, because the he's just so open and inclusive. He's just like, all right, here's the BPM. What do you
Yeah.
what do you got? So
Oh, but that one was really sweet. The video you have with him, it's really cool stuff. Yeah, really cool.
yeah,
I love his records. For many, I know him from many years. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he has a record where he plays songs from Bob Marley. I think so. I think so.
I think so. I got to go. I got to go check out some more of his.
And it's
Artists.
really nice. Many years ago, I found this record. And it was like, oh, so cool, so cool, so
Yeah,
groovy, so it's cool and simple, but so punchy and round and really, really nice.
yeah.
Really, I
Well,
also love your records very much, but we'll talk about them.
yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. But yeah, just the way that he's able to play, bass and guitar at the same time on these hybrid guitars, and like the it's like very much like in kind of an organist concept. The way that an organist would play bass with their left hand and then, you know, play with their right hand, he's doing all that, only on guitar. So it's pretty amazing. And there's actually 3 tracks. A lot of people don't know that 3 tracks on Voodoo are actually just Charlie Hunter and Questlove in the rhythm section. That's it.
Okay,
The
okay, okay, okay.
So it's the root and Spanish joint. It's like just Questlove, Charlie Hunter, and Roy Hargrove. Like that's it, basically. It was pretty amazing.
It's
The,
a pretty massive team.
yeah, yeah, no doubt. The yeah. So that's yeah, it's been fun collaborating with all them. But
So your albums are on Spotify also
yeah,
because
yeah, they're everywhere. they're the actually, it's funny you mentioned Bob Marley. I did do Three Little Birds by Bob Marley on my first record,
okay, okay, okay.
which it was supposed to be. I actually got hit up recently for someone who's making a Bob Marley jazz compilation in France, and they were going to use that song, but then the pandemic hit, and I never heard anything about it. So I don't know whether it's on hold or something. But but I actually did, what was that, back in 2011. I did a concert where I arranged the entire Exodus, Bob Marley Exodus record for a jazz group. So I actually have more kind of in the somewhere in a file folder somewhere. I've got charts for other songs from that record. But
We all have many work in
yeah,
our
and things
covers.
that we revisited and things like that. It's been fun kind of during the quarantine, because we like cleaned up totally. Like throughout, like I was throwing out papers back to 2013, 2014, stuff like that just didn't need to keep and whatever. But then finding old arrangements or compositions and things like that it's like, oh cool, I forgot about this. Like this.
The big hit.
Yeah, right, right.
It was
It's like,
like, oh,
in the drawer the whole time, right?
yeah. I've been seeing some of your videos also talking about the organic acoustics, drums, and all the electronic. And this is a very
Right.
interesting stuff that maybe you can share with people because
Yeah,
every
for sure. So if you look, so this is the Roland SPD, which a lot of people have seen before, right? The, um, you know, basically the thing, you know, whenever you watch SNL, there's a, you know, pop artist and there's a snap in the song, the drummer is always triggering the snap on something like this. So the, but yeah, so I really like using this. I started using it first with Brax and then with some other artists. But in Braxton's band, like we started out by sampling like background vocal parts and stuff. So I'd be actually triggering, you know, samples, and then also like electronic drum sounds for different songs. Um, and so yeah, so that's, you know, so this is that's kind of like the center of everything. But that particular video you're talking about, the what I actually did was I have triggers hooked up here, so that's what I wanted to show you. Is we got like this on the snare drum, and then there's one down on the bass drum as well, and then I've got this other one that's like a bar trigger, which is just, it's basically like putting an extra pad, you know, over here, so that it's kind of in a more logical place instead of having to reach over and play, you know. So the one on the snare drum is actually like a dual trigger, which means there's one sound for the rim and one sound for the head. So so it can be a little tough to get the like balance just right and the sensitivity just right, so that it triggers every time. You know, it doesn't. You know, it's kind of a balancing act. I'm still working it out a little bit, but the so basically all of that stuff runs into the SPD. The SPD's got the sounds on it, and then from there you can send it to record it, and you can also send MIDI from there. So a lot of times I always take a MIDI line as well. So then if someone wanted to replace the sounds with something else, they could do that too. You know, so so yeah, so that's kind of the thing. So basically, when you hit the drum, you get the acoustic sound, but then you also get the electronic sound on top of it. And if you play it a certain type of way, you could actually remove the acoustic drums entirely, and then just have the electronic sounds, but with the like human feel of sitting at the drum set, you know, instead of just like programming it in, you know, where it's going to be like perfectly, you know.
But
Yeah.
do you use your own sounds, or you use only SPDX sounds, or you like?
I mean, I use both. A lot of times, you know, so Roland had like, so the SPD has all of the like Roland drum machines, all the big ones on there. So like 808s, 909s, and 110s and whatever, those are all in there. So a lot of times when people are like, "Oh, bring an SPD," sometimes what they mean is like they want to hear like an 808 clap somewhere, you know, and that's it. That's the thing. But no, I definitely do use samples. I've been trying to set up more stuff with other drum machines that are not Roland, you know, so like the LM1 Lin drum stuff. I'm a big Prince fan, so so using the, you know, trying to get some of those sounds really happening, but it kind of takes some work to like, because he didn't just use the dry sounds for the drum machine. He obviously processed them and gated reverb and things like that to really get that sound. So I've still been trying to get that up and running. But I also shout out to a friend of mine, Effa Edaroma Jr. He plays drums in Moonchild. He's a friend of mine who's also from Canada, but he lives in LA now. And he's got a couple sample packs. He just released a new one actually the other day, but that are just on his website, you know, so you can find him. I'll put his name as well.
Great, please do.
Got it.
And
But
if you want, you can also write one of the names of your albums also, so people can.
Oh yes, okay, cool. So my I'll write them real quick right here. My apologies for typing slow.
No.
But yeah, so a lot of the snap samples and stuff and clap samples that I use are from it's called the Effa Gemway sample pack, which is his. Oh no, I misspelled it. Trying to do too many things at once. Dialectics. There we go. And then the latest one is just self-titled.
Yeah, I've been listening to both. Yes.
Oh, cool. I appreciate that, man.
So cool.
Yeah. I was really fortunate to work with Mark Carey on this latest one. He co-produced it with me, um, and yeah, so we really we put in a lot of work on it. Like I did all the editing myself and everything, and then we you know added things after the fact and whatever. So the yeah, it was just really cool to work with them and really kind of put that all together. Oh, what's good, Hutch? The I already shout out earlier, but he's another one. Greg Hutchison, the baddest drummers that ever graced
Yeah,
the
some
the
great drummers here. What about what about studying tips? If you want to
Jonah.
talk about your, I don't know, preferences about books or grooves or songs or study themes.
Um, say that again.
Sorry, because I was trying to read here. Many people are saying
Yeah,
uh,
yeah,
about studies. Which kind of books? Which kind of grooves, patterns?
oh man, all kinds of things. I was you know, a lot of things. Usually before a book, I try to go to the source and go to a recording or a video or something first before I go and deal with books. But the one that I've been dealing with right now is this one. So I already had this. Um, but yeah, this is one. It's a drummer Nilsi. He knows I'm probably butchering his name, but he lives in Turkey. So he
Okay.
put out this book. It's been really helpful because the um, just to get like been working out. I mean, I've been working on a lot of these grooves for a long time, but the but yeah, to really sort of get because there's so many of these grooves from uh, Tony Allen's grooves on these Fail Out records or whatever are so many of them are super specific, but then there's also like an infinite number of little subtle variations. So um, and like some of the stuff is not always super easy to hear 100% what's going on in the drums on some of those records. So this book has been really helpful for that. For just
That
sort of
must be amazing book. I didn't hear that book. I'm gonna be searching it. That's
yeah, for
amazing.
sure. I think he bought like afrobeatdrumming.com. I think he like bought the domain name, so you just like search, the Afrobeat drumming book, and the author's name is I think it's just self published. I kind of just found it online on a whim.
Okay,
Um,
great,
but sorry,
great, guys.
yeah.
So many interesting stuff already here.
Oh, cool, cool. But it's like anything else. Like you can look at a transcription in a book, but without going to the source and getting the nuances of it and everything, it's not gonna, it's
Mhm.
not gonna sound like what you're actually going for, right? Um, oh, this is up. Thanks
Cool.
for tuning in. Appreciate you. The so yeah, so that one's been cool. But of course, like all the classic literature, like you know, always working on Will Coxon snare solos. Of course, those are like there's the main book, the Rudimental Swing solo book, but lately I've also been working out of All American Drummer,
Okay.
which is like God, it's a bigger book with a bunch of shorter solos. And then there's also this book, Wrist and Finger Control, is incredible, which I wasn't super hip to that one until recently.
Mm.
Um,
That's a Wilcoxon also.
yeah, Charles Wilcoxon. Yeah, those three books are all Wilcoxon. Yeah,
The wrist and fingers. That one.
Wrist and Finger Control. It's cool. It's like there's a lot of cool exercises in there. But lately, what I've been doing, my warm up routine has been, um, well, part of my warm up routine has been the I found out if you're familiar with Alan Dawson's Rudimental Ritual.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that was something that he put together, where it's basically like all the rudiments put together in this thing. It takes about like half an hour to 45 minutes to go through. It depends on how fast you do it. But the feet are going in like samba feet the whole
Okay.
time, and then you're working on you know playing all these rudiments over the thing. And a
Okay.
lot of times people will do it with brushes
Mm-hmm.
to even like build up the muscle even more. So actually, it was Hutch. He told me, I remember saying offhand one day, because I definitely took several lessons with Hutch, Um, and or he was the one who said like, if you got, if you're in a hurry, just warm up with brushes because it'll get you going much faster. Because
Okay.
because of just how much more muscle it takes to um, get everything to speak, and to be articulate. Uh, but yeah, so I've been working on the Alan Dawson's Rudimental Ritual, which is funny. I actually got it from Joe Farnsworth when I was 18 years old. He was playing in Winnipeg, and he was playing with Cedar Walton, and it was like my first year or my first month of college. It was September of my first year, and I was super excited because Cedar Walton was here and Joe Farnsworth was playing with him, and on the first day, like he played the first concert, and I asked, like, hey, can I get a lesson? And he's like, no, I don't do lessons. That was it. It was like, oh, okay, no big deal. And then the next day he showed up with it was like rolled up, and it was like it's the Alan Dawson's Rudimental Ritual in Alan Dawson's handwriting, like a Xerox of the thing, and yeah, he just handed it to me. He said like, here, check this out, and then that
Oh,
was like,
that was great. Yeah.
it was a great lesson, So, I've gotten to know Farns, since living here, obviously. But yeah, it was a great, like, it was good to, he just wanted to introduce me to that. But so lately, what I've been working on though, and actually, like, so I was saying that I've been taking some lessons with Rob Peterson. He's got all these variations to moving the rudimental ritual around the drum set, and
Hmm.
different ways of different concepts of motion, like one hand goes this way and one hand goes this way, or things like that. Um, but lately, I found someone sent me Marvin Smitty Smith actually came up with his own version of the ritual, which is a completely different one.
Okay.
So I've been working on that lately, just to So I've been working on rudimental ritual for whatever it is. I guess 14 years now. So I figured maybe I could check out the other one now. so so that's been part of my thing lately, has been that the Marvin Smitty Smith ritual.
Okay. I'm
And
gonna try
yeah,
all this stuff.
yeah, for sure. And of course all the books like Jim Chapin, the Jim Chapin book, the Ted Reed Syncopation. There's I like these books especially where it's stick control, things like that,
Oh yeah.
where one of the reasons why these books are so classic is because they're not super specific. The Ted Reed Syncopation is really just a book of rhythms. But the reason why it's a classic piece of literature is because people have taken it and come up with a million different ways to work on it, right?
Yeah.
So so that one's been, obviously been working on that one forever, and different, and it's really only a few pages in the middle that people really work on. Is the funny part. Some people only work on one page, that page 37, and that's the only only page. But there's a million different ways to work that out. And and when I was studying with Hutch, like he had all kinds of cool ways of putting together. With the Chapin book, putting together different exercises and different like note values against each other, like triplets against 16th notes and things like that. That you know, yeah, just super cool. Just
Yeah.
different ways that you can work on these things. Just taking them at face value and working out of the book, you can your only limit is your imagination. What you can come up
Yeah.
with.
It's always cool, isn't it? I always I always tell I do drumming classes for many years, but it's in a intermediate, in
Right, right.
initial grade, and I always tell students from moment one, from the first moment, to always place, if you're playing with your hands and your feet aren't doing anything, just do something with your feet, because
Yeah,
you start connecting everything, and you can always do something more and try to be functional, because you're going to be playing with everything. You're never going to be playing only with your
right,
hands.
right.
Leader. You need to be, and it's super cool to do that. To You have an exercise, and then you can always you should, in my opinion, you should always interpret and say, okay, look at this. If I do this or I place this somewhere else, it sounds different, but
Yeah.
it's
But you're
same idea.
absolutely right about engaging your feet. Like even if your feet are just playing quarter notes or something like that, like like whether it's quarter notes in the bass drum and 2 and 4 on the hi-hat or something like that, it's still like, even now I still find sometimes with the simplest warm-ups, just playing it against the feet, sometimes I'm like, it's not super clean and not lined up, and I'm like, right, of course I have to keep working on this and keep, like
Yeah.
getting it
It's
all.
true.
So it's good to access those parts of your brain, so everything is, it kind of helps you develop faster.
It's true. It's true. Many every day I play, I have some issue, and it's usually that. It's usually okay. My hi hat is doing something, and it's cool, but okay, but try to keep the beat here because it's
Right.
not okay. So this is cool. Okay, let's try to put this on top of that. Okay, okay, but
Yeah,
it's
right. Well, and sometimes putting two exercises together is really what locks them in, because you can't just incidentally just like play something just kind of wherever. It's like, okay, if I have to put it with this, then that means that this has to be super solid, and so does this, and then that way,
Mhm.
everything's there. So there's a and also sometimes it gets harder as we um, the longer we sit in certain habits, right? Like we all have habits and things that happen automatically. You mentioned the hi hat and stuff. Like, excuse me, we've all got automatic hi hat, like left foot stuff that happens. So, and sometimes you have to really assess those things and say, okay, how can I break out of this habit so this stuff isn't just happening incidentally? That was one big thing when I was studying with Terry on Gully that he was really big on, was being very deliberate about everything. Like, don't just play quarter notes in the hi hat while you're playing this other groove just cause. Like, do you want to do it? Is it part of the groove or is it not? Like actually
Mhm.
being, very aware of what you're doing at all
Mhm.
times.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes, that's. I think that's one of the. I think for me, of course, that's my opinion, but it's one of the most beautiful things I to listen to. Um,
Right.
about drums when you have intention, when you have a melody, when you have a phrase, when you have an idea, when
Right.
it's just not purely. It's not that I'm opposed at all, and we all have technical. Everything is technical, I think so.
Right.
Even a melody, even a groove or a pocket is technical. Everything is technical, but
Of
I
course.
mean, in terms of expression, I mean, when you see clearly that a drummer is expressing himself, and everybody understands. You and me are drummers, and we understand like, oh, great idea, but the audience also like, wow, cool.
Yeah, right, right. And technique should be a means to an end anyway.
So sorry, sorry.
That's all good. The
Okay, okay, okay. Because there's someone at the door and she's going crazy.
right, right, right. Yeah, yeah. I don't have a watchdog to bark when someone came over here. So the but yeah, the technique obviously should be a tool for expressing yourself, right? Like the we can't say don't, technique doesn't matter, because if we didn't have technique, we wouldn't be able to express the things we're trying to express, right? The like we need that technique so that when we want to play something, we're not struggling to play it, right? So the so that's just like a tool. I remember, so one of the best pieces of advice I remember getting was from Jimmy Green, who's an incredible tenor saxophonist. He taught in Winnipeg for 3 years, and he played on my first two records. And I remember him telling me that the more basically the more disciplined your practice is, the freer you are when you're playing. Which means like the more if when you're practicing you're like, okay, yeah, that's cool, that's fine. Then when you get to play, you'll struggle more to execute the thing you're trying to execute. Whereas when you're practicing, if you're very deliberate, like I'm working on this, I'm gonna get this until it's perfect, um, and then you get it together perfect like that, then that means that you'll be able to access it when you're playing much more easily, um, rather than having so it's kind of counterintuitive that you have to be really kind of like really super focused on like a really small thing, or very rigid when you're practicing, but then when you're playing, you can just be creative, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, but still practice creativity as well. You know, I remember reading that Tony Williams used to, you know, when he was a kid, he practiced 8 hours a day, but at least 1 hour of that was always just free creativity. He would just play free for an hour every day, just to like, you know, that was part of his routine. You know, was actually like exercising the creative muscle, you know, and not just playing, because you know we can get, if we're always playing transcriptions or stuff out of books or things that exist already, then we have no chance to create any of those things ourselves, you know.
Mm-hmm. It's true. It's true. We need to ideas. I mean, must be different for many people, but to me, it works a lot. Listening to records, or I don't know, even watching movies, or just thinking about stuff when you're not playing, but thinking about them musically, and then when you go back, or picking up stuff like, for example, world rhythms are amazing
Right.
because of, right?
Yeah.
Like you just said, all, for example, the Afrobeat, sometimes
Yeah.
you just can't grasp what he's doing because it's so different that you can't really understand what's going on because it's not your usual groove
Right.
feel.
Right. Because it's not like, because it's not necessarily you know, what you would think would be the logical progression of how something would go, right? So it's like you have to kind of throw away your own,
Yeah,
you know, sometimes those preconceptions can help when you're transcribing something.
yeah.
You go like, why would why would this work? And then you go, oh, it makes sense because this is physically what's happening. You know, like that's why you would move from this time to that time or whatever, because physically this is what's going on. But um, you know, for other things though, things that we would be like unfamiliar with, it's better to kind of throw those away and just go, okay, exactly what is this? You know, there's a lot of, especially with Tony Allen's grooves, those Afrobeat grooves. Like, you know, I usually joke that learning a lot of these grooves like makes it feel like I'm relearning how to play the drums, because some of his like language and things are so unique to him. And so like, you know, I was talking yesterday. I was doing a live stream with a friend of mine. I was talking about uh, "Water No Get Enemy." That track, super famous Fela Kuti track, "Water No Get Enemy," and the groove has got bass drum overlapping with snare drum first, and then snare drum overlapping with bass drum, and like things that like almost no one would play, but like the way that he plays it is so uniquely him, and it's so like, you know,
Mhm.
it's his own. He literally just built his own language, and it's incredible, you know. So it didn't come out of thin air. It was obviously influenced by other things, but like the way that it, you know, we got to always take these influences and filter it through our brain and our experience and our everything, right? So that's why I say like set aside time for creativity, so you're not always just
Of
working
course,
on something someone else did all the time, you know.
of course.
But also don't reject all that either, because there's no reason to reinvent the wheel when stuff already exists, right? Like we have to study history, and I'm huge on history and on you know, taking in everything that I possibly can, but then I want to actually filter it through myself and express something unique to me, you know.
Yeah, it always, I always feel like I always feel that it's a continuous
Yeah.
movement. Things that we have before, we should know them. And the more you know stuff that goes around, the more you can create. I think so. It's kind of funny because
Yeah.
if you study everything and you have an open mind, it's more likely that you will do something. If you don't study so much and if you just keep doing the same stuff all over,
Right.
that's what I see after all these years. I see that people usually that are more curious, more going into books and stuff and trying this and that, and then they will come up with a little different thing because they're
Yeah.
just trying to have a good sound playing those stuff, but they eventually make something of their own.
Yeah.
Uh,
And I think teachers, you know, need to encourage that too. Like that it's
mhm.
like, because you really need to exercise both parts. You can't just be like, okay, sure, you can sort of half get this exercise. Okay, yeah, the exercise is close enough. You know, that's fine. it's like that doesn't really help anyone either, because you do have to exercise that part of your brain to just learn something 100% as it is, you know. However, then like some other teachers who have really, um, I think sometimes because of that, it can be at the expense of creativity. So certain students can only play something if they've heard it before and if it came from
Mhm.
somewhere else. So they, you know, so that curious, inquisitive mind is very, very helpful and really comes in handy. If you can, if you're always kind of looking for ways to make something interesting, or just being able to connect dots. Really, that's one thing that I love doing, is just connecting dots between one thing and another thing and whatever, whether it's something specifically on the drums, or even if it's just a musical thing, just connecting the dots between
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know things that might be completely unrelated, might seem like two completely unrelated recordings or something, but I'm like, you know what, I can actually hear how that's the same as this or whatever.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's amazing, isn't it? As you get older, I think it happens more. Of course, I don't know.
Of course,
Maybe
yeah.
you start realizing, oh, come on, this. I never thought of those two styles as being
Right. Oh,
similar.
you're just doing that. Oh, cool. Okay, got it. Whatever that thing may be.
So it's almost the same. So it's amazing, and it happens a lot with folk music and like music from the people. It happens a lot that you have the same kind of ideas going around, and then you understand. Okay, this is it's more common than
Yeah.
apart. It's
Well, and
amazing.
especially like in so many, so much of the music we listen to today comes from the African diaspora. So we've got like, we've got so many threads coming from Africa through the Caribbean, through South America, through into America, and things. There are sometimes what seems like completely unrelated music.
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, this is all Africa, especially rhythmically. It's like my man Flavio Silva from Brazil. I was just talking about how everything comes from Africa. I know that's a conversation we've had before, Flavio. The Flavio's got a great record called "Break Free" that I played
Okay,
drums on, and actually there was an Afrobeat track on there called Africa.
okay,
Um, but yeah, amazing guitarist from Sao Paulo, Brazil. One of my
okay.
best friends. The But yeah, so yeah, absolutely. It's like the older you get, the more music you take in and everything. It's like the more everything starts to get closer and closer together. You start to see how this is, very similar to this, and that a lot of these genre designations in the first place are just, they're
Yeah.
not actual musical things. They were to help sell the music. Like, this is
Mhm.
that type of record and this is that type of record. Oh, you like this record? Then buy this one too. Whatever. But now we're not
Yeah,
selling records, so it's like we should start breaking these things down as much as we can.
yeah. Music. Yeah, yeah. It's true. And rhythm has that immense universality. Can you say
Yeah,
that?
yeah, absolutely. You know,
It is what it is. It doesn't belong especially here or there because it's coming from so far, so long, for so many. I mean, some patterns are. I always remember this clap. This, I don't know the name of it. It's like a surf music
okay.
clave.
Oh yeah.
And
The
this is
Bo Diddley, the Bo Diddley
yeah,
beat, and it's the
totally.
clave, and
Yeah,
it's all. So that's like it's funny that you mentioned that, because that's one thing that actually popped in my brain already. When I was talking about things that are very similar to that, like as a kid, hearing that song "I Want Candy," that's the beat, like "I want candy," dun 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 dun. Right. We've all we grew up hearing that song all the time, but it never occurred to me that would be, that this what I thought was a goofy song has got actually like one of the deepest beats. Um,
and it's
that,
very ancient,
that came from Bo
really
Diddley,
old.
came from the Caribbean, and they use that in Cuba, and then you hear they use that in West Africa as well. All of it
Yeah,
is
yeah. It's
totally
it's
connected.
it's been found. It has been found in manuscripts from ancient music in the Middle East.
For
So
real?
Yeah, yeah. I have a book with that reference. It's like,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
all the clave kind of things come from the down the Sahara cultures because it's
yeah,
where it all started. So
yeah, absolutely.
so clave it's a universal language. Everybody would get understand that clave and they would dance to it or do whatever they needed to do to be together socially. So it's amazing. So
Yeah,
I'm into this stuff. It's amazing.
and
And when
it's very interesting. I think there's something, there's something so satisfying about, I mean, we refer to it as clave, because it's the like,
yeah.
it's what they call it in Cuba and things. But the one of the things that's so satisfying about it is that there's kind of an up bar and a down bar, right? Like there's a, da, 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 up, da, da, down. So we've got like, and you hear that even in other musics where the rules aren't as strict as the like in Cuban clave, it's like the rules are very strict when you're in clave and when you're out of clave and whatever. But there are other styles of music that are all that I hear similar things too. I hear in samba, I hear up and down bars as well, and talking about in Afrobeat as well. Like there's no and in the Senegalese bar drumming I was talking about as well. There's no strict clave rules, but there's still a lot of the beats you can still hear an up bar and a down bar. You can hear certain things like that. When Tony Allen was I mean, like you can, you know, even though those are two different traditions of music, you still, they have their own rules and things. You can still hear these. I just love like connecting these dots and everything, and seeing how those things relate.
It's true. And when you once you when you're getting older and you studied more things and is it's never easy. I don't know, speaking about myself, it's never easy to know what you want to keep and what you want to focus because you really need to focus if you're
Right, right, right. I mean, the
right.
definitely like when you're younger, you have to take in everything. And I think that there's also a period where you kind of have to you have to have like tunnel vision where you're really like, if you always take in everything and never hone in on any one thing, then you never get to actually develop that one thing as well. So so I find there's kind of like a balancing act between, I remember there's a great video by, Monty Python, like
Hmm.
John Cleese, the actor John Cleese. Um, there's a video. I gotta find it again and watch it again, but I watched it years ago, and it's like he's talking about how they always approached writing comedy as like being in an open mode and then being in the closed mode. So the open mode means you're brainstorming, every idea is okay, any influence, like anything you can think of, it's all totally cool. You want to be as open as possible, and and you can see from how that comedy came out, like some of it is so super ridiculous because obviously they're just open to just any idea coming to coming to hit them. But you can't be in that mode forever because once you've got an idea, then you need to go into the closed mode and work on it and work hard on it. And because otherwise you never develop anything. You just all you've got is ideas. You don't have you haven't actually like developed any of those ideas into something. You know,
Interesting. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I think you're totally right. I mean, that's the thing is that like, and I know drummers like that who are very specific and very deliberate about how they want to sound,
Hmm.
to the point that like, people get surprised when they're like, oh my god, they can do this. Like, take for example like cats who play like super super straight ahead jazz, like very like it sounds like it's from a very specific period in time, but then someone like they have to play a rock groove or something and it sounds totally amazing, and you're like,
Hmm.
what, you can do that too? It's like, yeah, just because I don't doesn't mean that I can't. It becomes one of those like, becomes one of those things that I've known cats like that even within jazz they're very specific about the things that they're trying to do, even though they actually have studied, all of it and everything, and can, play modern styles and can play traditional styles or whatever, but they've decided that this is what they want to do and this is where they fit in, and this is
Mhm.
like the music they want to make with people. Um, so yeah, it's very interesting to me. I haven't, you know, one of the things like being from a smaller city and whatever, I kind of had the you know, I had the opportunity to play with a lot of different types of bands because you have to, you know, that was playing has been my only job forever, you know. Um, so I would play in like bar bands and rock bands and different things, whatever. So I had kind of all these different influences, and I kind of, you know, not to say I liked all of it, but I liked a lot of it. So like you know, so all those things sort of are, you know, sort of part of the DNA that makes up the musician I am now, you know.
Mhm.
So, so yeah, but definitely over the last few years, it's been a little bit more like being kind of specific and more deliberate about what I'm doing and what I'm not doing and things like that.
Curtis, we have 1 minute and a
1 minute.
half. So we already told everybody that you teach. You have all your records. They can listen. All
Yeah,
your
sure.
stuff on Instagram,
Daniel Friedman.
everything. So I would like to thank you again because we left so many good references here. I will place this on my YouTube if you don't mind, so people
Yeah,
can
by all
go
means.
and check it out again and again. And
Yeah,
I hope to be next week. I hope to be back doing all my videos and stuff. So if you want to have a look
yeah,
and
we'll do.
share it
Thanks for
with you.
having me, man.
So if you want to say goodbye to everybody, I will thank you again. And you
Yeah,
have
thanks everyone for tuning in. And by all means, if you got questions, just hit me in my DMs. And yeah, you know, check out the records. And everyone stay safe and you know, just do what you can. Yeah, for real.
okay.
But thank you so much for having me, man.
Okay. Thank you so much.
For sure.
Thank you.
Take care.
We'll be seeing each other on the
Definitely.
web.
Definitely. Take care,
So
man.
stay safe. Thank
Yeah,
you.
too.
See you.